Okay, Rachel, are you ready to go?
Yes.
What are we doing?
I don't know. I thought you knew.
Phil, aren't you supposed to be running the show? Which guest have we got?
Don't make me the boss of stuff.
You're the boss of stuff.
Let's wing it.
And go.
Hi, welcome to the This Is My Voice podcast.
The podcast where we discuss all things voice performance and talk to some of the industry's best and brightest talent.
We're your hosts, Rachel Salas.
And Eddie Bye.
So, Eddie, we've got a bit of an interesting guest lineup today.
Who?
We have the lovely folks from Talent Academy.
I've heard of these guys. Yeah.
We're going to have a chat with both of them and we are going to allow them to tell us what they're all about, which is going to be fantastic.
Will they make us better public speakers?
I hope so.
Okay, welcome, Sanja and Tom, to the show. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us. It's nice to see you.
Absolute pleasure to be here. My heart rate is slightly up because I, since a child, have always loved voice actors and behind the scenes stuff. And so I've never actually got to speak to real voice actors before. I love people like Jim Cummings and there's just so many different voice actors that, made up my childhood Saturday morning cartoons and other things like that. So I'm like reverting back to a childlike state at the moment. It's like Christmas for me.
Yeah, mad respect for you guys. Like, we're super excited to be in your presence.
Lovely.
I don't know what to say. Well, like, shucks, you guys, you're going to make my head explode. It's like... But we are very lucky to have you guys. So public speaking is such a tricky thing, and behind the mic, and when you're performing or doing auditions, I know it can affect your tone and your overall performance. So I thought, why not get you guys on here to tell us how it's supposed to be done? Because you can help a lot of voice actors right now when it comes to auditioning.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so when it comes to public speaking, I often have to... So at Talent Academy, we've got a bundle of different specialists who help in different disciplines. So, you see a bit of a snapshot of the team behind us. I'm the complicated made simple person. But also I need to learn public speaking very quickly because I've put too many skill points into being smart at developing new technologies and not enough skill points into having a presentation with normal people. That's what I do.
The more complex the content, the better it is for Tom to handle because he is by trade a tax lawyer, the fun area of tax, right? But also the very complex area of law, and he had to be able to demystify what tax was all about, sometimes on a global scale, and make tax fun, which he did. He actually did a stand-up comedy show about tax. So fun fact, he can actually present about it really, really well. And so that's why with our medical researchers, engineers, anyone who's got a really complex presentation, they like working with him.
Yeah, great.
I find that when it comes... You go.
No, I was going to say, well, why don't you tell us exactly what Talent Academy is and what it does first before we get into it?
Yeah, so Talent Academy, to use an analogy, Talent Academy is a little bit like the Avengers. It's a bundle of specialists all working together. And so it was founded by Sanja about 14 years ago, and it was just her at that stage. And she was a professional ballerina and musical theatre performer.
Theatre bug.
Yeah. Her superhero origin story was that, tragically, she was dropped from above the head of a male dancer while auditioning.
Ooh.
And she damaged her spine and hips. And so she's able-bodied, she's happy and healthy, but after a bit of physio, she couldn't really dance on that level again. But she loved the stage and she learnt so much about presenting and popping into character, handling nerves, entertaining a crowd, improving and working on the spot. And she had that still to give to people. So when she was doing a fringe show, there was a person in the crowd who came up afterwards and they said, I wish you could help my team be as confident and clear on the and so smart on the spot as you. And he handed Sanja a business card and it had defence essay on it.
Which makes me think, am I going to teach the Defence Force how to pirouette or CA or that's what we're talking about here? But he said confidence and that stuck with me.
And so giving people those presentation skills from that professional industry, and that's how Talent Academy was born. And so I was a competitor. This was a few years ago. I quit my job as a tax lawyer to pursue a childhood dream of mine, ever since I was 13 years old, I've always wanted to be a public speaking coach. I love what I call communication theory, this idea that comedians don't get lucky when they tell a joke. Politicians, keynote speakers, they all seem to know what they're doing. They know how to craft words, make really good choices. And I was like, how are they making those choices? What are the frameworks? What are the theories? And so I learned a lot of that. I applied it in law for negotiation and other purposes. And when I quit that to start a dream job of mine, we were competitors, but we decided we shouldn't compete. We should collaborate. And we collaborated too much and got married and had babies.
Okay, right. I get it.
We then
Best way.
started reaching out to other people in different verticals. And, we have a media person who's an award-winning podcast, has an award-winning comedy podcast. We have a change management and leadership person who flies around the country, doing leadership courses for big businesses and things like that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And we cover our bases across our Adelaide office, our Sydney office, and we've just launched in China. So we've now gone global in what we do, delivering public speaking training across every vertical of communication.
Wow.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow. Gosh, that's so exciting. And you do have a real team of people now, don't you?
Yeah. So not just I think we're up to 11 facilitators so far in the team, each with an area of expertise, but also someone in the office, and, interns come through all the time helping with marketing. And so we've been able to grow the team that way, one of which lives in Sydney, running the Sydney location for us. And so it's been an interesting growth strategy by focusing on growing through competitors rather than scaling in any other model. And it's just been such a fruitful way of growth. We've been able to start being able to offer so much more, saying, yes, we do have an expert in media now. Yes, we can actually help with conflict resolution. Anything under the banner of communication, I can bring an expert in, because no single person can be an expert in all things communication, and anyone who professes to, you should probably run away.
Okay. All right. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say there's such a variety with communication. I've actually got a diploma in communication and I'm still trying to figure it out bit by bit. Everyone's on their own journey and everyone can provide tips and tricks with certain areas just to make their job a lot more smoother. So it's really quite fascinating.
And
yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I would like to have as a way of making communication really practical is to think of it that communication is always a two-way thing. Even if it's, say, comedy, there's this illusion that there's one person out the front with the mic, with all the lights on them, facing one direction, 100 people are facing the opposite direction. It must be all about the speaker. No, but every time the comedian says something, they're setting up and delivering laughter. And laughter is what the audience is saying back. And they're communicating other things, but it's almost more telepathically. They're imagining the scenario. And then when the punchline happens, they're imagining it sort of going wrong, and that's where the laughter's coming from. And if you're an educator, you're setting up and delivering learning, and learning looks like head nodding, people making notes, asking questions, doing better on the test. And a lot of educators who talk for an hour but never confirm that people are laughing, they never confirm that people are learning. That shows that there's a lack of communication there. And so we help people find out what their reaction is, their desirable reaction is. And we look at their script, we look at their delivery and make sure that there's no dead space. They're always setting up and delivering that reaction that they need to get the funding they need or the point across. Yeah.
So is it about the structure of what people are saying? Is it the words? Do you have someone come to you and go, well, I've got to do a TED talk, or I need to, do a lecture or whatever, and then does it start with you guys going, can we have a look at what you're going to say, and then tweaking those words so that they're interesting? Because I sort of, I work with a lot of writers and, I know words really well. I love working with words, and I can tell if a piece of copy or a piece of writing is structured clunkily, I know it won't work because, it's like a story. It has a beginning, a middle and an end and a story arc and all that sort of stuff. And I think if you don't get that, the audience won't listen. And I think that's got to be the starting point, surely.
Yeah.
I do like to take, everyone's different at telling how they have a different approach. I like to take almost an elite sports performance way of looking at it. I look at the skills of the speaker. I can show you lots of examples where there's a perfectly well-written script, but if you're not good at delivering it, it comes across as a really bad presentation. And so I look at what they've got, I look at how they do it, and I just start running frameworks and questions through it. Again, so it's what's the ideal outcome we're looking for? And if you open with, hi, my name's Tom, and I'm going to tell you about this today, I go, well, that's a nice customary thing to say, but what productive work did that do? Like, is the audience feeling what they need to feel, learning what they need to learn? Like, how does it help? Yeah. And so then all of a sudden, if we took that and we go, what if we put it in the second position? And the first position was a story, you know, and then they open with that story. It triggers the imagination. And then you say, and now my name's Tom Hendrick and this is what I do. Yeah. Suddenly the story kind of flows into your introduction and it's not like dead space anymore. And so playing with those words, playing with those choices is like part of the science and the business of what we do.
Yeah. I completely agree. In my line of work, I hate ads that start with a question, right? Do you have a problem with your plumbing? Do you need someone to mow your lawn? Do you need to do your tax return? Like, they're really crappy ways of starting a commercial. Because whereas if you could go, instead of saying, do you need someone to mow your lawn? You could just go, you could even change the question. You go, sick of mowing your lawn? Is your lawn overgrown? Do you have a jungle in your front yard or whatever? You could really make it a bit more colourful than, do you need product or service? And sometimes, like, clever writers will put it, like you said, tell a little story, something to pull us in straight away, and then ask the question, do you need this product? Well, then, or how about this product or service, rather than do you need this product or service? And I think it changes the whole frame of it and brings the audience in straight away. So I completely agree, and I love that sort of surreptitious way of bringing people in. And even sometimes you could just scrap the whole front line altogether and just go, here's a story about the planets that are about to collide together or whatever, and get everyone all full of fear. And you go, but don't worry, it's all good. Let me tell you about it. You know what I mean? And then everyone's like, oh, because they're all scared, and you've got them. You've got a big emotion happening, and then you've got them all scared, and then you go, but don't worry, it's fine. And there's a big relief. And then you can sort of settle into what you're talking about. That kind of works, doesn't it?
It's a lot of people are almost too timid to speak in a way that gets close to the reactions that they're looking for. Like, you can obviously oversell, overcook, fearmonger, and people will react negatively to that if they sense manipulation. But if you think about those like classic infomercials where it's like a black and white screen, maybe a sadder sort of tone, someone who just can't for the life of them pour a glass of milk, and they need some device to help them do it. It's not just the text of what was said, but also the way it was said and the way it was presented. Like presentation being all the things that speak other than your voice. How things look, the color, the presentation of it. And it's interesting to look at it. I think a lot of people put all their points, all their emphasis into text, feeling that the thing that they lack is that the audience just needs to understand, instead of trying to create a presentation where the audience sees themselves in it. They feel understood. And that's that's probably where the voice acting comes in. It's creating that. It sounds like it's not acting. It's natural, and it's also attention grabbing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, like, we have to do such a condensed version of storytelling. Like, a lot of performances, so if it's like you're the main character of a cartoon, though, you've got more time to tell a story. But with advertising, you've got 30-second blocks on radio, though, and where you can still be a voice actor and do cartoons, or you could be a regular Joe. And it's just such a short amount of time, though, to create something and connect with someone. So it's a lot more pressure.
You've got to be in commercials. You've got to hit them between the eyes. There's no room for subtlety, and this is the difference, I guess, with public speaking and that commercial work. I mean, there's lots of other voiceovers, obviously, as well, the animation and all that sort of stuff, which is a little bit different. That's pure acting, really. But if you don't hit them between the eyes, because we're trying to stand out in a break of 5-10 other commercials, and they're all blah, 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 blah. What does my voice bring to stop that switch off for the audience and get them to engage within a couple of seconds? I've got to get them in a few seconds. So I think the opening lines are absolutely key. Otherwise, you just won't engage them from the start. And I think there must be great synergies between that and public speaking, because you can tell. Like, I know when I watch someone, publicly speak, I can tell within half a sentence how it's going to go. I can tell probably even before they've started. If they're holding their piece of paper and there's the wibbliest wobble, I know they're nervous. If I can hear it in their breath before they even utter the first word. And I know if they don't have that confidence, then what happens is that translates through the entire talk. And people go through it, and you, Tom, you'd be able to explain this, or both of you be able to explain this, but people sometimes feel empathy and a little bit, sorry for them and kind of like will kind of listen out of sympathy to them. But they're not listening in the right way. They're not engaged. And you see it all the time. It's a real tough one. How would you, say if you had someone, I don't know, someone who's got a lot of energy, they're very passionate, but they're a bit of a bundle of nerves.
Oh, thanks.
Not talking to anyone in particular. How would you deal with someone like that?
So the interesting thing about nerves is that it's a combination of a few things, and more often than not, it's us overcooking in our own head what's perceived on the outside. We're thinking, what if I say the wrong thing? Everyone's looking at me, this and that. It's all external. It's about where our focus is. So when we, and this is probably true of many other areas of psychology, but whatever you kind of focus on, you manifest, right? So if you're hyper-fixating on, I'm panicking, the paper is shaking, as you sort of suggested, once I see that, what's going to happen in my brain? It will absolutely amplify it. And so the focus is key. Sometimes when we're working with some of our entrepreneurs and startups in our Think Lab communities, they're young founders standing in front of investors about to pitch for millions of dollars potentially, and you see exactly what you talked about. The breath, the nerves, and all of the focus where they're fixating is not on what actually matters. So we say to them, what's the spotlight? That's my methodology with them is, what's the spotlight? Is it on you fixing your tie for the 50th time and looking at your notes for the 50th time? Or is it actually about mentally spotlighting, this is an amazing invention. We have just found a way to do X, Y, Z. This will cure cancer. This will make you millions of dollars. Whatever it is, that if you put the spotlight on that, when your brain can only focus on one thing at a time and it focuses on how incredible this is, you start worrying less about, is my tie straight? Am I holding this right? Am I going to stuff up this word? So much that is learned and habit. Tom talks a lot about habitual learning, where something becomes autonomous. When you've worked really hard on autonomous presentation, that just kicks into gear naturally. And you'll say the right things because your brain is focused on what matters most, the outcome.
I take an elite sports performance approach to how people improve and manage their nerves and their speaking skills. And Sanja takes an elite actress performance to it.
Step into the right role.
And they're similar, slightly different approaches. They're both very outcome-seeking in nature. So, imagine an elite performer who, say a golfer who's hit millions of shots in their life, but all of a sudden when they've got a short putt for $1 million, they get nervous even though they've done it millions of times before. And they have, sports coaches who help them do well, knowing that pressure is going to happen when they get close to victory. And I apply a similar thing to people I work with. So one thing I do is I try to find out. Well, first of all, here's one way of looking at it. There's a very involuntary organ in your body, in the lower central part of your brain, called the amygdala. And it's not the only organ. There's a system of different ones, but we'll just call it the amygdala. And its job is to receive signals from your eyes and from your ears, and to interpret those signals and predict whether you're in danger or not. And here's the thing about public speaking, is that there are a lot of things which look like you're in danger, even though you're really not. But so if you're facing one direction and 100 people are facing the other direction, your brain goes, surrounded.
Okay, yeah.
But you're not surrounded, but it looks like you are. The other thing is it starts, as Sanja mentioned, it starts to overcook and continue the information of what happens if I speak. It continues that information really unfavorably sometimes. It starts to think, what if I say the wrong thing? What if the slides fail? What if someone asks me a question and the answer to? What if I stuff up? And so it starts to go, her, panic, and it's involuntary. If a door slammed, could you choose not to hear it? These are signals that just start bubbling. And a bit like if you were an athletic cyclist, you could work really hard up the hill on a bike and create a lot of lactic acid byproducts in your muscles, but you would have, a threshold where you could still work hard despite the burn, despite the pain. You could just flush it out really quick. And so people who do a lot of speaking are probably very good at flushing out these adrenaline and this cortisol, even though it's in high volumes in their body, because they're trained. And so a lot of what we do is try to get people higher thresholds, for exposure therapy, the public speaking.
Well, it's part of the reason why we have a saying, when people say practice makes, and their brain says perfect, we say, no, practice makes better. The more frequently they do it, it actually becomes more second nature. For example, the first time you drove a car, you were probably stressed about, am I in the right lane? What if I don't indicate right? Panic, panic, panic. Now you probably drive to work and forgot how you get there. And it's exactly the same with speaking. The more frequent exposure, the better, especially within the parameters of the frameworks we use.
Definitely. I mean, I struggle with that. So when I talk to my students, I'll say, okay, in today's session, I'm going to teach you this, and this. But one thing I will struggle is to give you confidence. That's one of those really tough things. I think this is where you guys are just absolutely talking magic to me, because I never knew how to do that. And there's such great little tips, to be honest. The only thing I would ever say to them is the more time you sit behind the microphone, the more comfortable you'll be with it. Studios are really scary environments. Like, Rach, when the first time you walked into this studio, what did you think? Yeah, because there's, you can't see it, but there's computer screens and knobs and buttons, and it's a proper recording
It's a spaceship, essentially.
It looks like a spaceship. So it's really nerve-wracking, and I try and set my students up. So when we go into the studio, and when you go into the booth to record your stuff, you are going to hear your nose whistle when you breathe. You're going to hear your tummy gurgle. But that's all normal. So does everybody else. And don't worry, we'll get rid of all of that stuff later on in post. That's no problem.
Phew.
Don't worry. But I really struggle with that, and that it's a really interesting, what you say is super interesting, and I love it because it's like I didn't know that there were actually techniques and just those simple things that you say, like driving or riding a bike or whatever. But I was going to say, I don't know whether you can tell, I have no problem with public speaking at all, right? Not a problem. I could get up and I could talk about, and the most mundane object for about 30 minutes without missing a beat, and you wouldn't think that you'd think that I'd planned it all out. So I've been doing it for long enough, I never feel any adrenaline at all. What I think about when I stand up on a podium is I own this is mine, and it's my time to shine, and I am going to nail it. That's kind of what's going on inside me. And then there's no fear, there's no chance of making a mistake. Like you talk about the PowerPoint doesn't work or whatever, all of that sort of stuff. Like the PowerPoint doesn't work about half the time, right? And that's okay. So if they go, you look around and you go, oh, the PowerPoint's not working, and then you just move forward, right? And you just keep going. And, someone's hopefully madly tapping away to try and get it going and it's back. Because that stuff just happens. But it's what happens next that's really important. But, yeah, I don't know. And I think that comes from – I'm rambling. I think that comes from doing it a lot. Like, I don't I don't care. There is no failure. You know what I mean? Go on.
Can I jump in, Eddie? Does that watch of yours measure your heart rate?
Yeah.
What's your heart rate?
It's 95 at the moment.
That's a bit higher than it normally would be?
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned before you don't get nervous.
Yeah.
You are, in fact, elevated in heart rate.
Passion.
Yeah.
But like that elite cyclist, you've got good flushing speed. You're not in zone 5 cardio. You're in like zone 3 cardio. Steady state, but you're still working. Like you've still got cortisol, you've still got stuff, but it's just not filling up your entire pipeline, like your adrenal system.
Yeah.
And so building that capacity is one thing. Helping people reinterpret the signals. And the third thing is giving them a plan. Like if they can do something automatically, they can do that despite great pressure.
Yeah.
And Sanja is the queen of conferences. She's really good at getting people up on stage who would otherwise be running away from the microphone. She's got lots of theatre-based tips and other things like that help people get to that level pretty quickly.
You talked about that element of confidence being such an important one. I think something that's really important to note now is how much pressure we have in this current generation to equip the next with this particular skill set because they default to text, don't call. They are in a digital world, not a physical world. And that makes it so much harder for them to develop these communication skill frameworks that we had naturally growing up. It was completely normal for us because mobiles weren't a thing. Well, back then, we're showing our age, but mobiles weren't a thing back then. You'd use your home phone and call your friends. You'd actually speak to people. Going out and having physical interactions was the norm rather than the digital relationships that kids are building now. So I think that we now have even more responsibility to role model really good communication frameworks and confidence that young people can start learning from, and creating environments where we're actually encouraging the next generation to develop this confidence on purpose and strategically to equip them for the next generation and the next workforce that they're going to be entering into, where communication skills will just be lacking. It's not part of STEM education, SACE. It's not part of even most tertiary courses. It's usually an optional elective. And I think it's a foundational life skill that isn't taught anywhere. So perhaps we as a generation, now it's our time to take this seriously, role model that confidence that these young people looking at us are going to need, so that we can do it on purpose and show them how they'll need it most.
How do we do that?
Well, come to us.
Well, that's the thing. So I'll give you a super quick example. My daughter is the captain of the football team, and as the captain at presentations, she has to give a speech. And she's packing it over it. And we were driving the car. She says, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I'm going to be terrible. And I'm like, your father's a vocal coach. You're going to be just fine. And she goes, that doesn't matter. It's not genetic, blah, 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 blah. What do I do? What do I say to her? What do I say to her?
So this is a classic example of the sort of people that walk through the door.
Yeah.
And this is a walkthrough. So I'll just step by step go sort of through the things that we would do. The first thing I would do, if say they had to give this presentation like this week or tomorrow, that sort of thing, is I would show them a technique that's going to work really well for that environment. If, say, it was going to be an environment where they have to be sort of conversational about it, they can't be fully scripted, they have to answer questions, they have to, just go up there and do their best. I use this technique called repeat and count. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of evidence based behind it with things like child development and co-regulation of relationships, whether it be marriage counselling or psychological counselling. The idea is it's a way of structuring yourself and your content so that it passes through this necessary regulation, relate, and then create in that order phase. And what you do is you simply repeat the question that was given to you or the reason for speaking in the first place. So when I quit my job as a lawyer, to start a public speaking coaching business, I was asked without any prior preparation, Tom, say a few words about your time here at the firm. And I started to get really panicked in my head because I thought, if I don't speak well and I'm quitting this job to be a coach, I'll look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And my business will be unprofitable. But I knew repeat count. And so the first thing that came out of my mouth wasn't or that's a great question in a really insincere, cliched sort of way. Instead, the first word that came out of my mouth was, I'm going to tell you all today about my time here at the firm and what it's meant to me. And I'm going to tell you two things, what I've learnt and what I'm taking with me. And that's the count part, breaking up the answer into its contents page, into its manageable, takeawayable bits, because the big question's too hard. But when you can split the question into more manageable bits, now it's like you can't ramble. You have two buckets on the table, you just fill up those buckets and you leave. You can't overspeak, you can't, all that sort of stuff.
It's a restructure.
And so I just told, that's it. So it gives you structure. It has so many benefits to it. It raises the question, why not use it all the time and master it? So when you repeat, people give you the words, or the words are sort of in the moment. I was thrown under the bus the other day where I had to do a welcome at the Balaclava Cup. And the first words that came out of my mouth was, welcome everyone to the Balaclava Cup. I'm here to tell you all the things you need to know to enjoy yourself as much as possible. All I did was restate the reason for speaking as confidently as I could. And so in a job interview or a presentation, if someone asks you something like, tell us a time you used your skills to solve a difficult problem, you can just say, I'm going to tell you when I use my skills to solve a difficult problem. Here are two things, one example, that sort of thing. And it just means that you're almost like a tennis player who knows exactly where the ball's going to be, and you're already wound up, ready to just smack it back. Yeah. The first words that come out of your mouth are always confident. They're always mirroring and empathetic. If the person in the back of the room didn't hear the question, they get to hear it. There's benefits, like a long, endless list of benefits to doing that.
Yeah, and the count limits the response as anti-rambling.
Yeah. And when you become the master of repeat and count, it doesn't matter what question or environment you get thrown into, you're just going to repeat and count like a black belt. You know,
I
and
love
you'll
it.
get
That's
through it.
great. What a little nugget.
Yeah.
That's great. And I didn't know that. Rach, you should ask some questions. This is great. You guys are awesome.
No, this is really interesting, and yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying before, Sanja. I think with this generation as well, though, having gone through the pandemic, though, people are trying to connect more than ever, though. So people originally were like, I'm not going to answer my phone because that means I actually have to talk to people, and they get nervous. And I think a lot of people have anxiety. I think technology has it's become a bit of a foe to some degree because it's introducing people to the fob off technique where it's like, I don't have to connect with this person face to face, and it allows your anxiety to get stronger. And I'm not sure if you know about me, I've got an anxiety disorder myself. So I know this is really strange, like being in a communication field and having anxiety. It's not exactly a match made in heaven, though. So like Eddie was saying before, it's like with every time we do a podcast, so I get a little bit better. Like you said, practice makes better. So you're consistently trying to get out of your head. There's been times, though, with interviews where I'm like, I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack on the way here. And I'm just like, okay, breathe. And I know sometimes when I'm talking, I come across as a little shaky chihuahua where I'm full of nervous energy. So it's trying to get more comfortable with that. And I know going into, I think with my background as a producer, though, I'm constantly looking at other presenters and going, okay, we need to work on that. We need to do that. So I think that makes me a better coach with other people. But when it comes to yourself, it is really hard. I think there was Alex Flack from SAFM mentioned producers and presenters, you can either be one or the other. And I think that's a load of phooey, though, to be honest, because you can do it, but it's putting in the work. And even like consulting people like yourself is a great thing for anyone that's looking to speak or just work on their craft, though. Like it's just consistency and it's getting that guidance. So I think this is a great opportunity for any voice actor to really utilize your expertise to apply to their skill set, because I'm listening back to my recordings of my demo. I'm like, I don't know if that's right or that's right. And you're constantly in your head and you think, God, if I was to do this live, I think that's going to impact my overall performance because I've got that nervous energy to me and I really want to correct that.
You know, it's interesting you talked about the practicing to make better is part of it, but context also is. So, for example, we had a director of a government agency call me when he had been seconded over to Saudi Arabia. Now, government department director means he speaks every single day to hundreds, if not thousands of people for a living for years on end, totally no problem. Shift of context, and suddenly he's presenting in Saudi Arabia and he's panicked. And he's suddenly forgotten his name simply because he needs to introduce, welcome and acknowledge the sultans in the room and the sheiks and all these things that he's never had to interact with before, and he's nervous. Or someone who has spoken on big stages, thousands of people, you put a camera in front of them and they don't know what to do. They turn to cardboard because the camera is not a human eye and they just get nervous. So shift of context can be part of what makes someone nervous, even if they are traditionally a good speaker. But that context, a good tool to use, you know, leveraging on your personal experience as someone who has admitted to having anxiety, is a tool that I think is a self-edifying trick. This is why. When you are about to approach a podcast or a keynote or a TED Talk and you are psyching yourself out, it's because as you're driving there, you're going, all right, I have to say that, I have to say that, don't forget to do this, don't forget. And we so fixate on the thing that we can psych ourselves out, stress ourselves out more often than not, forgetting something really important. But shifting your mindset to something else, a good tool is called the You Are Like Challenge. And so this is a game you can play by yourself with your coworkers. It is you driving to that thing that's stressing you out and finding 5 to 10 items that you can see and then bringing it to yourself. I am like this car. I'm fueled with passion. I am like these headlights. I will illuminate the audience with new ideas. I am like this rear vision mirror. I know about the hard times, but I'm looking forward. I am like this steering wheel. I will point the audience in the right direction. Whatever it is, you do 5 or 10 of those and your brain is focused on something else that is actually edifying you. So rather than fixating on what could go wrong, you're fixating on this self-edifying game that you're playing on the way somewhere. Your shoulders drop. You've edified yourself to a point where you actually speak more clearly. And if all the effort has been put in before you get on board, before you get online about being an autonomous speaker, that kicks in naturally because you've put so much of your skill points into this you are like game. It's also a really good tip for edifying people. I've tried this out on people when it's their 40th birthday or whatever it is, and you're at that dinner, there's all the people around the table, and you say to them, hey, you are like that pen, you are going to leave a mark on society. And they are just like, that was the sweetest thing you could ever say. Oh my gosh. And you're just practicing a game. You're just practicing a tool that you go, the more frequently I can do this so it becomes second nature, I can do that to edify others, to build analogies really quickly if I need them. But the best tool for anyone with anxiety is to use it on yourself before you speak.
That's a brilliant.
Thanks.
To look at that from a sports science perspective, not only is it a good distraction, so it gets you focusing on the relevant cues, not the irrelevant cues, because great athletes are very good at going, I know the one thing I need to zoom in on and not all the other, a pole vaulter who needs to just put the pole in the thing at speed and not look at all the crowd and the people jeering them and stuff like that. So it gets you focusing on the right thing, not the wrong thing. Yeah. It also gives you that mindset of I can do this, I'm capable, I'm in a positive place. But also by doing, as Sanja said, picking random objects and connecting them to yourself, you're warming up and priming something that I like to call a mind-mouth connection. A lot of people, when they get on stage, they lose 100 IQ points. Their brain goes numb and blank, especially if you're a freezer, like someone who, when the amygdala starts firing, it manifests in hesitation, getting hot and numb and choked up and all that sort of stuff. But when you're practicing, here's an object, visually describe it and then compare it to me, you're saying what you see. And that's the number one skill that you need as a public speaker, to be able to speak without a script. You have memories, you have an image, a diagram, whatever in your head, not words, and you just download that image into the audience's brain through visually descriptive words. And a lot of the sessions we do with students who need to learn this quickly, I just have a series of high-definition photos. It might be a dilapidated, falling-apart house. Could be an empty cinema with 2 popcorns out the front, someone who's just a barber cutting hair. And I set a time limit of 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and I just say what you see. And some of them can't get to 30 seconds. They know the words in the image, but their brain doesn't behave, and they just have to prime and develop that neuroplasticity of creating that mind-mouth connection. And when they get really good at that, I take the images away from them and go, now tell me a story about a haunted house. And they can. Because
creative mindset, that pathway has been carved out. But it is a well-carved pathway the more frequently you do it. And back in my theatre days, we had a theatre director who would have a box of items at the front of the room. He'd throw an item at you, and by the time you caught it, you had to describe the person to the left, which got harder and harder and harder until eventually there was a cheese grater thrown at me, and I caught it and went, I can take a chunk of information and break it down into bite-sized pieces that people will understand. And you just make that up on the spot when it's a well-traveled path, something that becomes second nature and it is easy to do, then eventually that item has been anchored in someone's mind. So that friend who I said, you are like a pen, you'll leave a mark on society, whenever she picks up a pen at work, she can automatically feel edified. And the same thing can be done for a speaker who's about to get on stage. If they've picked their top 5 things that they run through in their mind before they get on stage, if it's in the car or a coffee cup or a phone, when they see that, they can anchor and go, I am like a pen. I will leave a mark on society and this audience. And they've shifted that mindset, and the autonomous can kick in and speak better.
Yeah. Olympic level athletes for that would be freestyle rappers.
Yeah.
So good at finding words, that rhyme on time.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
I can't do that. But you're definitely bang on, because I know my psychologist has taught me a few techniques. And it's very similar. It's grounding exercises. So it's see 5 things around you that you can see. Say 5 things that you can see, I should say, and or hear or taste, that kind of thing. That helps a lot. But with the adrenaline though, coursing through your veins. My heart rate's through the roof. Like even now, I'm just like, I'm very nervous, and I'm just like, your brain's, it's kind of mind over matter, but it's good because I think to a degree I'm kind of being a adrenaline junkie, like consistently coming back each week doing a podcast. But I'm like, it's good because you feel like you've accomplished something. And I think for any of your clients or any listeners out here, though, if you implement these tools, you'll feel better about yourself because you'll feel like you've accomplished something. You're growing your skill set. You're trying to be better than what you were the day before. And if you mess up, like I messed up your name, though, at the start of this interview, I was just like, oh, Lord, like you're just kind of like rubber banding yourself and you're like, dinner. Like I think as a producer, I've got dinner. I've tried to block that out of my head. You're still nervous, but you're just like, I've had to go at this. I feel better about myself because I've done this.
Yeah, and I think, you know, stuffing up the name at the beginning, because I know you well enough, because we've been doing this for a little while, that's the sort of stuff that would zap your brain. And I can almost feel the zap across the couch. But you know what? I think you actually dealt with it really well. I reckon if it was the first ever episode we'd ever done, you would have just gone wonk. And I can almost feel the adrenaline coming across from here. But I think you've learned now that because we pre-record these things, you can go, whoops, let's go again. There's no problem at all. And I think that there's a huge, and I think that is practice makes better with you, definitely. And I think there's a huge improvement, and I can feel the calm from you already. And that's just by sitting here in front of the microphone and talking to quite often, you know, really high profile voice actors and stuff like that, where even I'm a bit nervous. I'm like, my gosh, this guy is, you know, he is next level. Like I'm a hack compared to all the people we talk to. Every single time, I'm literally the hack. But I think about it like you. I think I'm here to learn. I'm not here to, you know, stamp my authority or be awesome or anything like that. I'm here to learn from these guys, and hopefully people can learn from the podcast.
But the irony is, you know, when we do the voice off challenge, Lo, we for you guys, just to let you guys know what we do a voice off. So we've had Jim Cummings, I know, fan favourite there, previously on the show, and you think, what am I doing all these crazy voices and trying to do a little competition with them, and you just think, this is Jim Cummings and you're doing these stupid voices at him. What is wrong with you? But I'm like more comfortable because this is a little acting technique that I learned, and I've helped other people do this. It's you're projecting yourself as I'm a presenter. I know my stuff, Flo. Like you're portraying yourself as a character, and it's kind of like a shield in a way. So you're exuding that confidence and you're being a different character in that moment, and you're having fun with it and having a play. And it's just like, if this was myself, Flo, where you revert back to, this is Rach now, you're just like, oh my God.
Whereas it's the opposite for me. I very rarely participate in that particular part of the show because I when I'm dealing with these people, because I book and cast voices all day, every day. I listen to voices, I direct, I do all of that. So I know what the best voices are capable of, and I know that I'm not as good as almost all of them, right?
Oh, don't sell yourself short, mate.
No, it's the truth. I mean, you got to be realistic, right? You know,
all right.
So when we're doing competitions with these people, these incredibly famous people that we're talking to, I'm like, no, I'll opt out. I'm not going to do it. You know, and it's just one of those things for me. I don't feel nervous about it, but I'm just like, I'm not going to do it, and I won't, and that's it. Like I'll very rarely do a voice, very rarely, because I don't do them anyway.
Well, you got to know your strengths, right? When I go on the golf course with Tom and he offers to swing the club, I'm like, nope. I know my strength, and it's not that.
I have a question for Rachel. When you mentioned before, putting on the voice can be a bit like a shield. From like that sports psychology background, there are a lot of methods that people use to get a bit of a discount or a reduction in the amount of adrenal, nervous, and stressful energy that they have. They've got to flush that out when it's time to perform. So when you pop into character and say that character is a confident character, you know, does popping into that mindset and that posture, vocal posture of that character, get you a discount or a reduction on like the nerves that you're feeling? You're still like hyper nervous the whole time, but it's just like you can project out the front.
I'm not even thinking that I'm in that competition mode with like Jim Cummings, where I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not worthy kind of thing. And you're just like, be calm, like you kind of go into the character mode. So say I'm doing a chipmunk voice, like we go, I want you to do an animal, and he's doing Tasmanian devil, which I'm like, I'm terrible at that though, but I'm like, my zone, I'm better at the chipmunk on helium kind of thing, like and I'm a chipmunk on helium. This is so cool. This is so much fun. I love doing an interview with both of you. And it makes you loosen up, because I think Sanja can appreciate this, like being a theatre bug. You're not being yourself. You get to have a play, and it's really a kid on Christmas kind of thing. So I can really understand how actors are like, it's nerve-wracking performing in front of the director, but it's like having a collaboration one. I think that a collaborative one puts your mind at ease, because they're giving you that feedback where you're just like, okay, I've got this character picture of them and I'm trying to create a voice. So it's never been done before. There's no right or wrong answers with this. Let's do a bit of experimental voices at the moment. Let's just try and have a bit of a play, and that's a lot of fun. And it's like, do you need this to be a bit more lower or higher, and try and get a bit of a frequency? If is it an old person, is it a young person, you get to have that play, and that makes your mind focus on the task at hand to have a bit more fun. Whereas if the spotlight's on you, you're just like, and I still like fluff my words from time to time, and I know that sounds really bad being an announcer and everything, but yeah, it's just I think it takes your mind off the situation at hand and into the actual task. So that's good.
Well, so what not a lot of people actually know, or they don't acknowledge, is that generally speaking, people have a natural acting ability. We just don't realize it. So, for example, you could be at home, there's an argument with your partner, you're at blows, yell, and then the phone rings, and suddenly you can go from screaming to, hello, Sanja speaking. It's just something we do. We have a phone voice. We naturally revert to acting in a certain way when we need to. And so if people do that naturally on the phone, we can do that when it comes to whatever it might be, presenting in a boardroom, on a stage, doing a podcast. We step into the role. Like you said, is it an old voice? Is it a young voice? So when I've got a TED speaker who's coming out of a laboratory, they're a medical expert, I'm like, you are not speaking as a lab expert right now, you're speaking as a speaker. Who is that? What are they called? What are they wearing? Do they pick up a briefcase? What kind of accent are they going to have? And if you think about stepping into, all right, I'm not Alice the lab rat today, I'm going to be Sarah the speaker. And they go into a mode. We do it naturally when we have a phone voice. We can curate an environment where someone can step into the relevant role to present how they need to. And we do that in some other ways. We might do that with when we speak to our child versus speaking to our partner. We play a certain role, good cop, bad cop. There's all sorts of things that happen in a natural dynamic of life. And we'll just curate a theatrical framework for someone who has to do that on stage. And then it actually helps people who do podcasts and step into these voices and roles and play. Play is such an important element. I love that you've raised that.
It's like the Wolf of Wall Street, when his dad answers the phone with the British accent, like after yelling at like the neighbour, who is calling at this time? Oh, hello.
See that? Yeah, it does happen.
What's interesting is, dispelling the myth that people need to be someone they're not when they're not comfortable with that. When, as Sanja mentioned before, we always have many different roles or we switch between different properties or postures when we talk to people. Yeah. Like Sanja often has an interesting thought experiment where if you've had a really, really hard day at work, but you're about to collapse on the couch and cry or something like that, but then say your favourite celebrity, whether it's a Scarlett Johansson or something like that, were to rock up, you would find energy in your pinky toe to be positive for that person.
100%.
And
hello.
What's interesting, when I look, because what I do is I have an AI public speaking coach software where I get people to present for, say, a minute, and it will tell me all of this data about them. It'll say like how often they're, if they have quiet eye or not. Quiet eye is whether your eye deviates more than 3 degrees from the camera monitor when you talk. If you don't have quiet eye, it might be seen as nervousness, or that you need to look at a certain corner of your mind to remember things. Have you ever thought of it, what do I have to do there? And you find yourself looking somewhere else. So we can look at where your eyes tend to track. We can also look at how often you your filler words, how concise you are, how fast you speak. Maybe when you're confident, you're slow, and then as you get excited, it ramps up. And when you granularize people down, you start to go like, is this the version of yourself normally? And they go, no, this is me under pressure. And so I go, so if we measure you not under pressure and we measure you under pressure, we know what ingredients need to be like swapped out so that when you start to deviate, you know how to come back, to the confident version of you. And the trigger might be speed. Most people, they get excited, they rant and they ramble on. So it's like if you just detect yourself going fast, you can pop back into that confident posture just with one relevant cue.
Yeah.
And it's when you show people all the music that's available to them, they can decide what chord they want to combine.
Yeah, it's definitely finding your cues. Like I know that we're going to have a accent coach, I should say, as a guest later in the season. And I know there's certain words that actors find helpful to trigger them into an accent. It's like caramel for like Americans.
Park the car in New York for a Boston accent.
Oh, Boston. Like there's this great scene, again, Wolf of Wall Street with Margot Robbie, and I feel like I can do a terrible version of it where it's just like, fuck off, Rocky Bear Dog. It sounds very Mayor Quimby-ish, where it's like, it's such a weird kind of Bronxy.
Those priming sentences, run-up sentences that get you easy words, and the harder words are easier.
It's finding the certain triggers, and I think if you can have a trigger or visualize something, it can really help your performance. I know Chanel Franklin, with one of her courses, I undertook, and it was, you were talking about the digital eye before. So if you see a camera or if you feel like, people are watching me, I'm going to behave differently. Though that, she said, try and figure out something that seems innocent or sweet or harmless, on top of the microphone or the camera. So like a rubber ducky, or if you picture your child's face where you're just like, this is completely non-threatening, where it's just like thinking, all these people that are going to be listening to me like make a goose of myself or watch me make a goose of myself. I found that's been really helpful the last few recordings that Eddie and I have done, where I'm just like, look at the rubber ducky. Like you visualize the rubber ducky.
Do you have? I'm so curious to know. Do you have any favorite run-up sentences in order to achieve a voice or an accent, like the park the car in the yard?
Yeah, I do.
Go for it.
So I've got like a movie trailer voice that I've used a couple of times.
Like in a world.
Yeah. So my lead up is, he came from a place, from a time far away, right? And I get that one.
Yeah.
And once I've got that one, then I can pretty much say anything as, you should visit Public Speaking Made Easy. They are experts. They're the experts. Yeah. He came from a place. Yeah. So I'll do that. And in between takes, I'll go, he came from a place. He came from a time. It's the romantic comedy of the year. All of those ones. You go, okay, now I'm there. And that's
brilliant. Like you say, you're not that good. I'm just like, dude.
That's like,
come on.
I just don't get booked for that. Like I've done 3 movie trailers in my entire career.
People out there, book him.
And on top of that,
it's almost witchcraft. Like it's an incantation, a little run-up sentence. And all of a sudden, you summon the character. Like and lo and behold, they appear. The movie character, the movie trailer guy.
Or like, hello, governor. Or you're just like, hello, governor. Something like that. Or you do the Aussie accent, like put another shrimp on the barbie, and you go, g'day, boy.
Yeah.
Or
it's like sing-songy, like Nancy.
It gets your mouth in the right shape. Yeah. That's what it is. I think from a vocal point of view, your mouth has to be in the right shape. And it doesn't just start that way. So sometimes you got to warm it up and get it there and hold it. And then you can say all the words that you wouldn't normally say. Like I think when we talk to character actors, a lot of good character, all the good actors, they have people come up and they can go, buddy, that's all, folks, or whatever, right? And they go, but can you, he goes, that's great. And they go, how good is that? And then these people are saying that to them, and that's brilliant. But the true test of a voice actor is not doing the key line from that character, but saying everything else.
Doing it for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Can you sing in that voice? Like, I can't sing in my normal voice. My husband's a musician and he's editing this. So, hey, babe. And he's just like, you can't sing in your normal voice. Please don't. But you can sing in that creepy chipmunk voice. So I can belt out Let It Go like Idina Menzel, like fierce singer and actress, and I cannot sing in my normal voice. So I think also Nancy Cartwright, I was going to mention, she, with Nelson Muntz, she finds like sing-songy things as good little triggers, like it's like da-da. Like finding tone for a character, though, if you're trying to find... Like, I guess it really depends on the character. If you're experimenting, is like what their background is. Are they young? Are they old? Like, are they a bit more nasally? It's just like this character has like a more of a stuffier nose. Like it's so dragon with a stuffier nose. So is it gonna sound like a checkout chick? Like really nasally, or is it more high pitch, or is it like more gruffer where it's just like he's got a big mouth full of teeth? Like we're looking at a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I always go one to my son where I'm reading a book. I'm like, one tasty bone sits on the floor. It's mine, says the T-Rex with a roar. Like practicing like that, like it's still finding the character though, and it's something someone's never done before though. So there's such a big part of playing, and I think there's no wrong way to do about it. That's the freedom of play. So I think for voice actors to be scared or nervous or looking to get into this industry, you've got to play, though, and it's so important, and it makes you relax a lot more.
I love the play and the science. The idea that this is something that everyone can do. Everyone has their own voice, you know. And some people like say the voice actor Yeardley Cartwright, like
Lisa.
Yeardley Smith, Lisa. That's basically just her voice, and they even like pitch it up, for her. But everyone's got a voice, and for her, that's a multi-million-dollar voice. And she's an essential character. But it's something that everyone can have a go at, and it can also take a lifetime to master. So like it's ticket of entry is free, but it's a Disneyland that you can stay in forever kind of thing. And what's interesting from the science point of view is whenever you deal with biomechanics that resembles a wave, like a curve, like a voice wave, if you look at, say, the energy that goes through your body through a golf swing, that also resembles the thing, there are often 4 little levers that you can pull on to change or improve the quality of that voice. There's sequence, and sorry, I might be telling you how to suck eggs because you're all much better
this is interesting
mechanists than I am. There's sequence, magnitude, point of application, and shape of the curve. Those are all technical words. I'll break them down very quickly. Sequence is the idea that certain muscles will move first and create a kinetic chain so that if something rolls off the tongue, like the back of the tongue moves first, the middle, then the tip. It's not out of sequence. I've worked with someone who had jaw surgery, and they completely lost their sequence control when they spoke. So if they could say words like that and the thorough, and also like ship and chef, they could make those TH and SH words, but not together. So if you went like, she thanked the chef for his thoughtful dish, from chef to thoughtful, the sequence was off, and the th became a really spittled lisp, like thoughtful. And they had this farting sound when they spoke, and they were embarrassed by it. And so we had to work on their sequence, Magnitude. So some people push harder on certain words than others. If you see like a voice curve, it peaks, more than others. And so some people who do like a Porky Pig voice just don't have enough magnitude to do it. Like he pushes down really hard on the B's.
It's like a jackhammer.
Don't have that same, like a jackhammer. People don't have the same pressure, so they can't do it. Point of application, which is like where exactly on the mouth do you make that sound? So if you have a really, say, American way of speaking, you need a very wide vocal profile to formulate the sound, to elongate those words. People, who don't have that point of application, like the shapes they make, fail to make the sound the same. And the last one is shape of the curve. So now that you've got all of those things in motion, how do you move that sound around to do different things? So you mentioned before, if you're a professional voice actor, it's not just being able to do the catchphrase. You have to sing. You have to do it while falling down the stairs. You have to do it while underwater. You have to do it while you're in a frantic argument, out of breath. And so that's the shape of the curve, like being able to resemble the signature, but like in different environments and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah. Again, you're saying all the things that I think I know, but you're articulating it so well. Like, I mean,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's why I go get paid the big
Wow,
bucks.
there you go. That's brilliant. That's
I
awesome.
know I have job security.
Yeah.
Eddie, why don't you do a trailer, for this interview, because you've done Inner World? Because we usually get our guests to do it, but he's just displayed awesome skills, with Inner World.
Inner World. No.
Promote. It's like we talk to Talent Academy. I can't do it. You're better at it.
Sanja and I could try to jump in between.
You know what? I think
you guys
little
exciting moments from the movies.
Yeah. Okay. It was Tim, wasn't it? It is Tim.
Tom.
I knew it was Tom. Oh, it's Tom. I know, because I was like, oh my God, because you
I was supposed to take the rap for the earlier one.
When you said Ben or something, I'm just like, hang on a minute. I knew it was a short. Okay.
I'm like,
In a world, we had Sanja.
Hey.
Sanja and Tom.
It's Ben.
And these two run the Talent Academy. If you need to use
we have to run. We have to run the Talent.
If you want to learn how to use your voice, these are the experts.
yay!
Yeah, lovely.
That's a good one.
We could talk for ages. You guys are absolutely brilliant.
Awesome.
So insightful, absolutely amazing. So thank you both for coming along and being a part of our podcast.
Yeah.
We absolutely loved having a chat with you guys. We could definitely keep chatting. I think we should just catch up for lunch and be friends. And just for anyone who's watching your podcast as you disseminate this, something that not a lot of people know is, TED's in Adelaide. TEDx is a fantastic platform to share your idea. It's free to do, and we would love to support you to get on the stage. So come chat to us.
Come hit them up.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and good luck with everything with Talent Academy.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
team.
Thank you for listening to This Is My Voice, the podcast about all things voice performance with the world's best voice artists. If you like what you heard, feel free to leave a review and don't forget to subscribe. This episode has been brought to you by the Australian Radio School and delivered to your ears by the Ozcast Network.